Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 266, and this show we review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, and this week I had a normal amount of books for me, which is about 19 books. I've been having a shorter pull list for the last couple of weeks, so back to 19 for this one. And number 19 for me was Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse issue 1. Honestly, big cash grab. The actual main story, the new story, is shorter than the added Miles Morales story in the back, or they definitely felt shorter to me. Maybe it's half and half, but not worth the $4.99. And honestly, this book had the same trouble that Spider-Geddon's been having, and I guess even Spider-Verse had, that there's so many voices that you don't really hear any of them. They're all shouting in a way. You know, figuratively, but that you don't really get to see many of the personalities of these characters. So, very much a cash grab of, obviously, Into the Spider-Verse coming out, and they're like, we gotta make this comic, and you definitely felt that here. I will say, though, if you've never read Miles Morales, maybe you might want to get this, just because, hey, you get an extra story, and you get Miles, but that's the only option I could see. Artwork was okay for this book as well. Art wasn't bad for the story. Kind of Web Warriors style artwork. It might be the same artist. I don't think it is, though. But yeah, giving this one 2 stars. Wasn't impressed with it, and I don't think it was worth $4.99. Moving on to number 18, which is Uncanny X-Men issue 2. A big problem I have with weekly series in general is that they're pretty slow, usually plot-wise, because they have to spread it out. And that goes back to kind of the cash grabness of this event, is like, do I need this series weekly, or would I rather have a better quality book with it being maybe every 2 weeks or, you know, once a month? So, definitely takes a slower approach here. We just get to see the team going in different spaces, and that's pretty much it. And then the cliffhanger ending is that Legion returns. So if you're a fan of that character, I guess you'll be happy about that one. I'm not a big Legion fan, so I'm like, oh, cool, I guess. Artwork is solid, though. Really like the artwork. Coloring's a little off for me, but it's a little bit too bright at points, but like I said, art, in at least pencils-wise, pretty solid, especially for a weekly series where, you know, you have to really get these books out quickly. So I enjoyed that. And I always like the little nods they make to X23. Usually the humor's good with that. So giving this overall 2.5 stars, and that is number 18. Moving on to number 17, another Spider book, which is Spider-Geddon issue 4. Love the variant cover, of course, with May. I'm glad they had the webs, because that is more exact of where they left Spider-Woman / Mayday in Spider Island Secret Wars. So I'm glad they got the costume right on the cover. But yeah, just like I was saying with the Enter the Spider-Verse stuff, it's just so many voices, it's hard to enjoy. And I just feel like there's just not as much of a direction here compared to Spider-Verse. It feels very much like, oh, we need to make a sequel because people like Spider-Verse and the movie's coming out. But I really don't care about the Inheritors here. And, you know, I felt like it was predictable. Otto was like, oh, I'm gonna go against the other spiders. It's Otto. Of course he's gonna go against the other spiders. And now he is maybe sacrificing Ben. And you know what's probably else gonna happen? In the end, Otto's like, no, I'm gonna change my mind because I'm a hero. So it's just been really predictable for me. Overall, I believe I gave this 2.5 stars. Maybe I gave it 3. No, I gave it 2.5 stars, which I was gonna say that this feels like more of a 2.5 star book. But once again, I think the artwork's pretty solid, but it's crowded. It's a really crowded book, visually and obviously story-wise. So, giving that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 16, which is Long Lost Part 2, issue 4. I like this book overall. I love the you know, the art, especially the coloring here, the mix of purple. Love that grayscale. But it is a really slow burn book. And now that we kind of got into the intense parts, it's like, oh, was it worth the wait? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. What I like more is when we get to see the two sisters interacting. And right now they're just going through the motions of like, oh my god, what's going on? So, yeah, the plot hasn't been as strong as the character work for me here. So overall, I'm going to give it 3 stars. You do get to see some plot movement, which I was happy about. So, like I said, 3 stars for that one. Moving on to number 15, which is Spider-Force, issue 2, another Spider-Geddon tie-in. Obviously, very tied into Spider-Geddon, which is why this is lower, but I like this issue probably more than the first one. I believe I gave it the same rating of 3 stars, but I did like this one a bit more. It felt like it had more of a direction. There wasn't so many characters they were trying to focus on. We just got to see Jameson, John Jameson, what this version of this spider astronaut is, and then his wife is, you know, being hurt, and I liked how they dealt with the Inheritors a little bit more here than the actual Spider-Geddon event, but it's still not blowing my mind because I don't care about the Inheritors as a villain, and that's a main focus of this book. But everything else, I keep saying this, but I think the artwork is solid. I think overall it's a solid book. Probably the artwork is one of the stronger aspects of this book. Like over here, I really like the design of John's suit. And just some of the action sequences in general. So I'm going to give that 3 stars. Again, didn't blow my mind, but I'm just not a huge fan of this event so far. Alright, moving on to number 14, which is The Devil Within, issue 2. This is a Black Mask book, and it's a mini-series. I'm reading this one digitally. I'm not blown away by it. I like the first issue more. I do feel like the art, the inking is very dark. There's shading that feels a little unnecessary to me just to build up the intensity, but I'm like, oh, I want to see their faces more. I feel like it covers up a lot of the strong pencils of this book. But we get to see our main character's wife is finally kind of seeing what her, or I guess not wife, they're not married yet, fiance is up to. It looked like her fiance lived in this house before. So I like that the mystery is building, but it took a little while to get there. It's the cliffhanger that really got me. But the rest of it was kind of a slow burn to get to that cliffhanger. So overall, just kind of a really middle ground miniseries for me. But it's only 4 issues, so I'm going to see it through. Alright, moving on to number 13, which is Nightwing, issue 53. And Nightwing is a book I think has so much potential but never meets it in the issue. Like, I love the idea that these detectives are becoming Nightwing. We only get to see one of the detectives become Nightwing here. And it's slow. It's just like nothing really happens in the issue. Where it's just Dick Grayson, or Rick, realizes, oh, there's another Nightwing. Cool, I guess. So it's a really slow burn, and I just feel like I want to see more of the stories of these detectives and why they want to be Nightwing. That would be really interesting to see, and they're just not getting there yet. But the artwork was an improvement for this, because I didn't really like the artwork in the last issue. It wasn't as gritty, which I enjoyed. It was a bit cleaner. Alright, moving on to number 12, which is The Immortal Hulk, issue 9. This book I like. I like the tone of this book. I like that it's a monster type story, or a monster movie type story. But that's also what I dislike about this book. I feel like it's such a, again, slow book. There's not really a direction for it besides, like, I'm a monster. What's next? You know, I died. What happened then? We're not going to tell you. And then always focusing on these other characters that are not really, obviously they're big in Hulk's story, but I don't know where they're taking us for the overall scope of the story. And this time we got to see Absorbing Man, which I did like. I liked his story. I liked that he ends up absorbing Hulk, and he goes, I guess, to this Hell version, which hopefully will bring us to this next arc, which is going to be Hulk Goes to Hell, which hopefully will let us learn more about what happened when he died, which is this overall story, which has taken really long to get there. The artwork is so haunting, though. I love the art, and I even like the way, there's 2 artists here. I like the mixture of Absorbing Man's story with Hulk's story. I thought it was really well done. But again, what is it? It's just monster versus monster. I'm kind of getting tired of the repetitiveness of that. So overall, I'm giving it 3 stars. Didn't blow me away, but I still like the concept of this book, and I feel like this book has a lot of potential to be something great, and I hope it meets that soon. Alright. I'm torn on this book. Number 11 is Archie, issue 700. I did an in-depth review for this. I won't go too much into it, but it feels very Riverdale to me. It not the darkness of it, but a lot of plot lines. And I've seen season 1 of Riverdale. I didn't pass season 1, but just from the pilot of Riverdale, if you've ever seen it, it's Jughead, you know, narrating, which you get to see here, and all the secrets, and Archie did something during the summer, and it's just like very much the same plot line. I don't like, you know, it's such a hard line, a thin line between over dramatic drama soapiness compared to what Mark Waid was doing, which was honestly felt really real slice of life storytelling, but still felt more dramatic and less of like, oh, when's Jughead gonna eat more hamburgers? Or how many is he gonna eat today? I feel like Mark Waid met this really interesting line, and especially Betty and Veronica. I've loved their relationship of how do they deal with their feelings for Archie, that they both like him, but they're still best friends, and they deal with it in a really real way. Here, it goes back to the cattiness of, I love Archie too, even though they dealt with it last arc where they're like, okay, we won't be with Archie, you know? And honestly, I think it might be for the better, because Archie's not being a good guy right now to them, because he's keeping secrets and doesn't want to tell anybody for some reason that he's dating this other girl. He could just be straight up saying, I'm dating Sabrina. Cool, let's all be friends. You can find somebody else. But obviously, we need the drama in this book. So, I'm giving this 3.5 stars because I enjoyed parts of it. I like the design of these characters. I like that there's something to look forward to. But I also there's a lot of things that irk me about this one as well. But hopefully as the story continues, we look deeper into these characters. And it gets less Riverdale-y and more of Spencer finding his own voice for this book. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. And that was number 11, I believe? Let's see. Yes, number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Bettie Page, issue 1. I really enjoyed the first series of this, and I'm glad that they have another volume. I don't get why Dynamite has to end one volume to make another one. I guess the issue 1s sell better, but I kind of wish it was just ongoing. That way people don't drop, you know, the original readers do not drop off the book. But I like this. My problem is I don't know if we needed a second volume, but I really enjoyed Bettie Page's voice here. I'm interested to see what these UFOs are all about and what trouble she gets herself into, and the artwork is always really good, and I love the expressions of Betty here, so it's a fun book. Again, don't know about the plot yet, but I always enjoy the characters, so I'm going to give that 3.5 stars, and again, continue to love Betty's voice in this book. Moving on to number 9, which is Batman issue 59. Love this cover. We get to see Bane, Batman, and the Penguin, which is a big part of this story. And with this issue, we get to finally see this whole Bane story move an inch. Definitely not far. It's very much an inch, where, Penguin tells Batman the truth, saying, hey, Bane's planning something. He's like, no, he's not. I just saw him in jail and he's crazy. He's like, yes, he is. And Batman's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the jail and beat him up. And Commissioner Gordon is like, no, stop beating up Bane. You know, he's not doing anything. I've been watching him. And then Batman punches Commissioner Gordon in the face. I was like, whoa, things are going down. And obviously it's Bane. And here's the page. Look at that. That's crazy. And then, of course, it's Bane lying because he smiles in the end. And we know from issue 50 that he's got something planned. Very slow-moving plot. But I thought this was a nice battle to the overall war. So, not my favorite issue of Batman, but I thought the artwork was really good. The action was good. Slow burn, but finally we're moving somewhere with this Bane plot, and I'm happy about that. So, giving this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Sideways issue 10. There's things I liked about this book and things I didn't like about this book. I'm glad that it's back on what we enjoyed about Sideways, which is just Sideways being a regular teen. But there's so much of this calling back to previous chapters. Like, we get the whole mom thing, which I understood that he has to deal with that. I enjoyed that. But keep calling back, like, I met Superman. I met Zatanna. Did I mention I met Zatanna? And I met Superman? I love Superman. It's mentioned so often. You do not have to read those issues because you'll know. You'll be caught up with this issue. Also don't know how to feel about the Ernie and Derek direction. It looks like they're taking more of a romantic direction. And I'm like, I like that they were just friends. I thought that was different. We'll see where that goes, but I like that they're both dealing with something. Ernie dealing with her parents separating, and Derek obviously dealing with his dad not liking him, which is crazy. So there's definitely some good stuff in here that I enjoyed, obviously, because it is higher. But there are also things that make it, I can't bring it to top 5/4 stars, because I don't love that they're going that direction with Ernie and Derek again. Some repetitiveness. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7 is Tony Stark Iron Man, issue 6. This is a lot higher than I expected it to be, but I thought this was a really interesting premise where we get to see the VR equipment of that Tony has been making kind of goes wrong, where we get to see his mom wears it and she gets like a seizure. So what's going on there? And yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see this world and how technology could go wrong, even though it kind of seems so bright. And I like this direction. I don't feel like other Iron Man writers have taken it this far. So I thought that was cool. Artwork, I just feel like there's a lot of characters, so it gets a bit crowded at times with the art, but solid work. Overall, I really like Janet and Tony. That really livens up the book for me. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting premise here. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Astonishing X-Men, issue 17. Another book I was surprised to see this high. I really like the ending of this. I'm sad that it is ending. But if you're a Havoc fan, this is definitely a must buy, because we get to see Havoc. You know, he's been a loser in this book, and he knows it, and he sacrifices himself and becomes the hero again to help his friends and his team. So I really enjoyed that, and it's all these losers working together to try to be heroes as the best as they can. Thing that makes it not top 5 material is Greg Land's art. I don't like his art. I like it for covers. Like, I think it's an awesome cover, and I like the glossiness of it. It's just the facial expressions do not do it for me. So I don't love his art, and that brought it down for me. But I liked a lot of the moments here, especially for Havoc and Dazzler. It shows that Dazzler is a badass. I mean, look at this. It shows how powerful she could be. Everyone's just like, she's just a disco queen. She's more than that. So I love Dazzler here, and I liked her emotional beats here as well. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. So close to top 5. If it was different artwork, I think it definitely would have been in my top 5. So I'm going to give that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is West Coast Avengers, issue 4. I love this book. It's so much fun. I will say there's definitely faults in this issue. Like, it was very easy to obviously convert these people back. But it's a comedy book, so you kind of like look the other way. But Clint finds a machine that says in Latin, which it just shows like, oh, of course the villain thinks he's so smart. It just says reverse on it. So he finds out a way to reverse it. Also, some things happen quickly here. Like, as much as I'm interested in the pairing of America and Kate's best friend, who I'm like, were they really best friends? I didn't really see that connection yet, but alright, fine, they're best friends. I like that, but they just kind of look at each other, and they're like, oh, you're gay? I'm gay? Cool, let's be together. At least that's how it kind of felt. I wanted more development here, and maybe we will see that as the issues go on, and I hope we do, because I think this is an interesting pairing, at least for Kate. Like, and again, her best friend and her other best friend are dating, so that's kind of cool. I just wish it wasn't that quick, and I wanted a reason why they would like each other. But, you know, obviously, I guess they just physically liked each other. But we'll see where that relationship goes. And I would like to see more development of Kate's supporting cast members, because that's something that I didn't really see in Hawkeye, and that was one of my complaints of the book. Another thing, you know, mentioning Hawkeye, though, I really like the ending of this issue. I'm sorry, I have a cold, so I'm like, my voice is cracking. But anyways, I like the ending where we get to see Madame Mask is watching them on TV. We get to see the Dutch oven again. So all these villains coming up from the woodwork, and it looks like Kate's mom might be in the background, or are they trying to trick us? So I think there were some really cool moments from the Hawkeye series that they're bringing here as well. So overall, I thought it was really solid. It's a really fun book. It has a couple of flaws for me, but yeah, I'm gonna give that one 4 stars, and then it's number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Jughead The Hunger, issue 10. This has been like a really under the radar series for me. I always expect, oh, you know, it's gonna be fun, but I always like goes above my expectations. And I'm glad Joe Eisma is just the artist on here, because we've had 2 artists on it, but it's more consistent with just one, and I love Joe Eisma's artwork, so it was cool to see that. I was really surprised by this story. We get to see a bit more behind the Frankenstein story, who created this and what's going on with that, and I like that we get to see Midge, because obviously it's evolved with Moose, so we'll see how Midge reacts when she actually, well, she does learn that Moose is Frankenstein, but we don't really get to see the reaction yet, so hopefully we get to see that in the next issue. And we get to see a version of Dilton is playing chess with all these monsters. So now Jughead and Frankenstein are definitely fighting, but we don't really know why Betty was kidnapped. Is she going to be part of the fight as well? We'll have to see. But I love Betty's voice here, her just being a badass. And again, learning more about the Frankensteins was fun. Artwork is always solid for this book. I like the coloring as well. It's dark, but it still feels a bit cartoony. So yeah, I've enjoyed this, and I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars, and that is number 4. Alright, moving on to number 3, which is Exorsisters, issue 2, which is another solid book that I was surprised by, because, I mean, I like the first issue, and I like the artwork a lot. It does have, like, kind of an Archie feel to it, so I've been enjoying that, and I like that it's a full exposition issue, but the way they do it, it's still interesting. It wasn't like, oh, I gotta read all this dialogue to find out what happens. It really hooked me, where you find out, our main character's mom traded her daughter's life pretty much to the devil, and she has these candles she didn't really know about. So what I liked is in issue 1, she's painted as like this horrible person just to be horrible, but things happened to her for these moments to happen with her and her child. So she's not completely evil. So I enjoyed that aspect, and I actually liked the exposition of this issue. So I'm gonna give this a solid 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, a new series, which is Smooth Criminals, issue 1 by Boom. This is just really fun. It's based in the 90s, so kind of had a heavy vinyl feel for me, at least from that aspect. And it's about this girl who is a hacker and has no friends and doesn't even know the definition of friends. What really hooked me was the opener, which is great for an issue 1. Give me a good opener. And it did here, where she's on a train and a cable car, and this girl, she's making all these awesome moves, and you think this is gonna be the lead, and she's like, no, that's not me, this is me. And then they start talking, these 2 girls, and just because they trade names, our main character thinks that they're friends now. It's like, no, you guys are just strangers right now. But I thought that was cool. So we get to see her life a bit, how she is this good hacker, and then she meets up with this 60s woman who steals stuff. So we're gonna have to see where this duo, goes, and why this woman got, transferred into the 90s, and what this has to do with the government. So I thought this was a really well done first issue. I liked the art style. It was fun. It was bright. I obviously liked the contrast of these 2 characters, and I was really pleasantly surprised with this one. So I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. Obvious pick of the week for me this week, and that is Injustice 2 Annual Issue 2. Blew me away. All the reasons why I love Tom Taylor was right in this book. It expresses the importance of Batman and Superman's relationship, obviously before everything happened in Injustice, how Superman looked up to Batman and how Batman looked up to Superman. We get some really awesome Lois scenes, which obviously is this glue to this whole story, is that Lois died, and that's why Superman became who he was in this story, and that he killed her. So to see these moments and the mistakes Batman makes, and he kind of realizes, damn, the reason he became this is because of me. I wasn't a good friend. So it's just such an interesting interpersonal book. But a lot of the DC characters shine, like John and Ma Kent, Alfred. Where I love John and Bruce's talk, where Bruce gets hurt, and he's like, he talks about his relationship with Superman and all that, but he also says, I'm his dad, I understand everything about Superman. And then we had that moment where Bruce is like, no, I don't have a dad. And he's like, no, you have a dad. it's that guy in there, so I thought that was cool, especially with everything that's happened with Alfred. It's just a perfect ending to a really, really good book, and who knew it was a video game tie-in could be this good, and again, it's just so perfect to me. The emotional beats from the artwork to the storytelling was just so good, and there's so many moments I enjoyed. It wasn't just one, it was the collection of all these moments that made this really perfect issue for me. So if you're a Batman or Superman fan, please do yourself a favor and pick this up. I think even if you've never read Injustice, this is a good standalone book to read as well. So pick this up. It was really great. So I'm going to give that 5 stars. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. Don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And also be sure to check out Frontline Live on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about our top 5 comics and comic book news. You don't want to miss that. Comic Frontline's YouTube channel is also in the description below. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.